Hello there. Today let's find out when to use if I was and if I were. Many people use if I was and if I were interchangeably to describe a hypothetical situation. And that confusion happens because when writing in the past tense, I was is correct, while I were is incorrect. However, when writing about non realistic or hypothetical situations, if I were is the only correct way. Even though they look almost identical, if I was and if I were are not interchangeable. The way you use them depends on the mood of your sentence. So let's study more about these two conditionals. If I were is appropriate in the subjunctive mood, while if I was is only acceptable in conditional past tense sentences. As you can see, it says there that if I were, it refers to a hypothetical situation, and this is commonly known as the second conditional statement, and there is a formula in writing this one. If I was would be for a real situation or the so-called zero conditional statement. And again, there is a formula for writing this particular conditional statements. So let's look further into how to use the conditional if I were versus the conditional if I was correctly in a sentence. You can use if I was in past tense first person sentences that describe something the speaker was or has done. The conditional conjunction if indicates that one action in the sentence depends on another. So feel free to read all the examples that I have for you here. And there's one thing I'd like you to remember, of course. The phrase if I was always comes before an adjective phrase that further describes the speaker. The word was indicates that the situation is likely and realistic. None of these sentences would be correct with if I were conditional. And speaking of that, let's find out some examples for if I were conditionals. If you're trying to describe a hypothetical or doubtful situation, also known as the subjunctive mood, you use if I were. Unlike sentences with if I was, these are cases that are contrary to current facts. Some if I were examples include the following. And again, of course, one last thing to remember, these sentences are in both conditional, one action relies on another, and they are both subjunctive. The if I were clause is contrary to facts. You could follow each statement with the expression but I'm not. This is the easiest way to tell whether you are using if I were correctly.